Hello, everybody. I'm on the wrong feed. It is February 13th. It is nearly Valentine's Day. My name is Anthony Pago. I am in Oklahoma City. I'm here with Rodney. And Rodney, you're always somewhere different. Where are you?
No, I'm still here in Mexico, man. I told you what was up.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So no, Mexico, no problem. Mexico's cool. I can't, literally, I've got an unbelievably beautiful place to live, and I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next couple of days. But right now, I'm in Mexico, so you know,
Cool. There's
it's all good. You know.
there's still no crazy hordes of angry armed men rushing you anywhere near there right now.
No. But here's the thing about Mexico, man. Like you have like every literally like once every other day you can see an armed caravan of Mexican Marines or Mexican military driving through the city with people in camouflage utilities and in M16s or military weaponry. Like that's just a normal thing. There are cops everywhere.
Yeah.
You just see.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing about Mexico: they never turn their lights off. Their sirens are always going. Their lights are always going. The sirens aren't, but their lights are always going. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's and then you go over the border and everything's like, you go back to San Diego and everything's just like. See, here's the thing, man. Like living here, there's no false sense of like security. You know what I mean? Like you know what's up. You know where you live. In San Diego, America, there's such a false sense of security. I know that might piss some people off, but I really don't care because we incarcerate more people than any other place on the planet. 1%
Right.
of our population is behind bars, bro. 2.3 million people are behind bars. It's basically slavery. Doesn't matter. A lot of black men, a lot of brown people, but a lot of white guys too, bro. That's just what we do here. It's a corporation. It's the school to prison pipeline. That's what it is.
Yeah. Which the prison systems that kind of is a good segue into what we were going to discuss today, because I feel like prison is a form of punishment uh, in the way that it takes you out of society, but there's still social groups in prison. One of the worst punishments you can get in prison is apparently to be put in the hole.
Yeah.
Solitude. Um, and We have an increasing number of people outside of prison, just regular citizens who haven't been prosecuted and locked up, who are feeling more and more alone here in the United States. Um, and I guess I wanted to discuss with you this thing that was referred to by an author named, let's see, I've got his name here because I keep forgetting it. Ray Oldenburg, who wrote The Great Good Place, and he referred to these places that human beings hang out in to socialize. He called them third places. And it seems
Mhm.
like our number of third places are disappearing. For anybody who's not familiar with third places, it's like affordable, kind of like socially level places that are not your house or your work. These are places like typically and historically you would think of as like coffee shops, tea rooms or whatever in Great Britain. Um, and this is where humans from the local society, usually at least nearby, would come and discuss whatever's going on sociologically or with themselves and make friends, and ideas would be exchanged. But it appears, if people on TikTok and the internet is to be if they're to be believed, it appears there's fewer and fewer places for like young people to hang out. I would say adults too. So what are your thoughts on this?
I would say that if you do walk into these places, everyone has their laptop up. Everyone's on their laptop. There's no conversation going on. I mean, look, you're talking about, well, I mean, let's just think about the evolution of technology, right? Fire. Now I can cook my food. I don't have to eat raw meat. Wheel. Now I can get to from point A to point B, whether it's just me pulling the cart or a horse or a donkey pulling the cart, whatever, right? Ships, vessels by water, steam engines that can take you from point A to point B across land, right? The train, um, and so on, right? Just down the line, just everything, automobiles, rock, airplanes, going to the moon. And throughout all of that, what we've seen diminish is human contact, right? Even though we have 8 billion people on the planet, what we're failing, I don't know, we haven't failed yet, not completely. But what we're failing to realize is that humans need humans. I mean, in order to like really to satiate each other, to feel like we're living, to feel that like that human touch. And it doesn't even have to be like literally a physical touch, just the words that come out of someone's mouth to heal. Words heal, bro. You know what I mean? And when we stop healing each other and talking to each other and really understanding that that's what it takes to move throughout society as, not exactly unencumbered, but just being able to like, hey, how's it going? How are you today? That doesn't happen anymore. In maybe in, every once in a while, someone you'll walk by someone will be, hey, what's up, man? Blah, 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 blah. How do we make friends? Why are there millions of people online trying to find love? What happened to I'm just going to use it. What happened to the church? What happened to the public library? What happened to just being able, because look, technology has put us in a situation where we can't even trust each other anymore. You've got the web, you've got the dark web, you've got all of this stuff that makes everything that we do a thing. Is that a thing? Was that blah 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 a thing? Is A B C D E F G a thing? Is 1 + 1 = 2 a thing? I mean, that's who we are now. We've lost the ability to actually sit down and look someone in the eye and have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's gone that way, just in a gentle slope down, for lack of a better way to describe it. And I'm not saying we're all headed to the depths of hell because of this, but it's definitely not an improvement over time. It appears that whenever the suburban flights occurred, starting in kind of the 50s, and really ramping up in the 60s and 70s, really taking hold in the 70s and 80s, what took over, because everybody was downtown initially, when you had smaller towns and everybody was still fine with living downtown, there wasn't the scare tactics to tell everybody that downtown's blighted and crime ridden. When everybody took flight to the suburban regions, malls became a thing. And even though malls kind of were a third place, it was still corporate. It was capitalistic. It was there to push sales, more than anything else. It wasn't really a neutral ground, which is one of the requirements for an actual real third place. If you have more money, you could spend more time there. You can buy nicer stuff. You know, you can attract more friends if you're actually spending money. Sure, you can hang out there for free, but not forever. And the people who had money were doing different things than the people who didn't have any. So I don't know about your experience in the mall, but I didn't speak to everybody that I saw there. We might like see somebody we know and kind of like nod and wave and stuff. But it wasn't a true kind of hangout. And malls eventually went the way of the dinosaur. They're still around, but I mean, they built thousands and thousands suddenly, and then over time, slowly, they've been torn down or left empty, filled with kind of office spaces and stuff. That's happened really quickly since the early 2000s. And they haven't been, I hate to say they haven't been replaced because they weren't really a good option, a viable option to replace what was happening downtown, where everybody lived downtown. You could walk to like a coffee shop or see people in your market nearby, just around the corner. um, Malls weren't a great replacement, but they did function as kind of a third place. And now that we've expanded even further, you need a car more and more to get anywhere. And people are, especially since COVID, just addicted to the phone and happier to stay at home and get your socialization that way, if you can call it true socialization. Um, they're not really interested in going out, particularly because it's become even more of a profit game to get people into like coffee shops and stuff. I don't know about you, but I don't feel welcome in coffee shops anymore. I used to work in a coffee shop. It's not like a strange environment for me. It's
Why
not an
is that though?
antisocial thing.
Why do you feel that?
I well, it looks and feels designed to move me through like cattle. There's kind of this design philosophy that's used downtown where they put cement tree planters in a specific way, or like like metal gridded planter containers. They have the hole in them that the tree grows through and stuff. And the way the seats are angled, if you look in more and more modern like build outs, it's built like a cattle what's that called, a cattle, not wash, dip. It's called a dip, a cattle dip, where they have kind of a corral thing, and it's just one thin little walkway, wide enough for one cow, and then they go in a line. They're forced to go in a line, and that's the way kind of our downtowns and increasingly our little coffee shops and stuff are built that way too. Where there's roped off and short walls, and the seating is just so that you kind of feel constricted to go from point A to B to C to exit, instead of a wide open space that is more communal. At least that's the way I feel about it. Now you've got a definite kind of like kind of the subway order line kind of thing, and you move down it, then you head to the seating, and like you said, people are on their laptops and stuff. The bathrooms don't feel as inviting anymore. I hate to say that. And it's just not comfortable like it used to be. A coffee shop used to feel like my living room, and now it feels like a place to get an order to go and get the heck out. And I kind of feel that way everywhere now. There's not really a type of business anymore that I don't feel like is made to be a living room, or an extension of a living room where I can kind of just sit down and relax. So there, in my opinion, there are no kind of third places, other than you've still got a few parks and stuff left, but you probably still have to use a car to get there, and not all of the young or the old people have access to cars or people who can drive them to those places. So I'm not saying all the third places are gone, but getting there can be extremely difficult, depending upon your situation.
Well, think about it this way as well. I mean, TikTok, that's the new third place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where people Reddit, you know, where people and bro, I'm just gonna be straight up with you. TikTok is toxic as hell, bro. I mean, I hear some of the most unbelievably cruel and unusual stuff on TikTok, dude.
Yeah.
Like people just like would you really ever say that to someone, bro? Like to their face? Would you literally have the guts to say that to my face, knowing what could possibly happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
So here
I feel like
you are, you know.
I feel like that's
Oh,
that is one of the effects of losing our third places. We now have some generations, some younger generations that have grown up without a third place, particularly the young kids who became preteens and are now teenager during the COVID era when they literally weren't allowed to, hang out. And they grew up, they were the iPad generation anyway. So they're used to, TikTok and scrolling through these things as a form of socialization and entertainment. And when there's no face-to-face interaction and ramifications from mistreating somebody socially or misreading cues and being corrected face to face and having to own up to that personally, it kind of fries your brain. It kind of tweaks you socially, where you're not able to behave normally, what we think of as normally. You're not as kind, at least for the most part, is what I'm noticing. Um, so it's definitely, I think that the people on TikTok and on Reddit who are behaving disgustingly, who are being rude and crude, I don't think that all of them are trolls who know how to behave, and they're just getting this out because they can, anonymously or anonymously. I think a decent percentage of them actually don't have enough experience in actual physical third places to learn how to socialize properly, and so they're lacking. They're
or they've
antisocial, and
forgotten.
and not,
They've forgotten.
or they've
You know.
forgotten. That's certainly happened. We've seen
You
some
know.
older adults who are behaving like that for sure. There's always this interesting thing that runs throughout time where adults complain about kids. There's always some crisis that we say is happening with the kids. Some of the interesting stuff that I can mention is um, back whenever reading first became a thing. There's documents that that dictate down. There were adults claiming that kids were reading too much. They were complaining about kids having their face buried in these texts, and it was turning the kids antisocial and evil and whatnot. They were acting out. And during the mall phase, adults would claim that kids were wearing all of uh, these freaky clothes that were no good, or were anti-Christian, or whatever, if you want to really boil it down. But they were wearing like vibrant colors and very crazy earrings, and their hair was wild, and maybe they would complain about their skirts being too short, or crazy crazy socks or something like that. But I remember very vividly adults complaining about the fashion from kids. And these days, I hear, I mean, other than people complaining about how rude everybody is and how they have their faces, buried in the phones, I hear a lot more and more complaints about kids dressing to adult, looking to adult. I mean, we've heard steadily about young kids' bodies developing faster, but I'm talking about how they dress and the type of makeup they wear. And I think that is kind of ironically a, an artifact, a symptom of all of us hanging out digitally in the same third places, where we're getting the same fashion tips and seeing the same like, I say celebrities, but now they're influencers. Well, they're celebrities too that are influencing us, but we're seeing
Sure.
the same
Yeah.
people rising to the top of the viral posts on Reddit and on TikTok. And so we're all getting the same information, whereas tweens used to get their own, and teenagers used to get their own, and adults had their own television shows or movies or whatever. People at
Well,
work, that's how
it's
they were
available for
influenced.
everyone, dude. All this information,
Yeah.
it's out there for everyone. Yeah.
Well, I think we're homogenizing our society really quickly, where the preteens and the teens and the adults are now starting to behave and dress and look like each other, and I think it's freaking out a lot of people, particularly the older adults who don't like to
Let me give
see
you an
that.
example, dude. Let me give you an example. So, there was this question that was answered by it was on Facebook. It was like 40,000 people answered this question. It was like, what do you? Well, the question, and I'll paraphrase it, was basically, what do you think was during the 70s? What do you think was what do you think could be considered dangerous or inappropriate? No, dangerous to people back then. And I said hip huggers, right? Because if you were 16, 17, 18 years old, you had a smoking you had a place to smoke as a 16, 17, 18. You could, in your high school, you had a place you could go outside to the smoking section and smoke.
Yeah.
And while you were there, okay, there were these nubile, waifs, 15, 16, 17, 18, hip huggers, halter tops. Do you understand, dude? A 17-year-old woman in hip huggers, a halter top, and her books, and that's it. There's no bra. It's just a halter top, bro. And everyone was so chill. Like the things that people, and here's the thing, the same people that are pushing these laws are the same people back then that were wearing these halter tops, that were wearing these hip huggers, that had hair down to here, that had afros out to here. Same people. You look at the picture of, let's just say, I'm going to use a name. No, you look at any of the photos of white men in the Confederacy who were in generals or whatever. Look at how long their hair was, bro. Look at how long their hair was. Look at how long those soldiers, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, by like, I don't know, let's just say the late 20s, late 30s, all of that changed. All of a sudden, by the 50s, everyone had short hair. The Beatles came out in the 60s. They had long hair. All of a sudden, there was a counterculture revolution going on. But at the same time, we still had places to go and hang out. We still had people to talk to. You know what I mean? We still had, there was kind of like a power to the people movement, but it really was a power to the people movement because we, as a generation of people, or a couple of generations of people, had the wherewithal to sit down and talk to one another. That doesn't happen now. That doesn't. Right. I'd rather text you or email you or put up a fake photo or some thumbnail of something and talk to you. And you have no idea what I look like. All you're hearing is my voice. And X's and O's.
Right. And I don't think that
what's the anyways, you know what I'm saying. You're hearing I'm a digital situation.
Yeah.
And now because of that, I mean, here's the thing, and this is what, and then I'll land my plane here, right? So you and I met each other because we had a place to go to.
Mm-hmm.
We had a place to hang out. And then your house became that place.
Yeah.
Where everyone was, let's go to Pagos. We'd have 6, 7 people over there at a time, like every day of the week. And then we'd all go to the Whistle Stop and hang out there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I don't think the house party, hey, let's have a house party. I haven't been to a house party, bro. I can't remember when the last time I've been to a house party.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like it is in part, and I've got a stat here because people are just trusting people less and less because of a lack of this kind of third space. Where is this stat? Um, Percentage of Americans who say they trust their neighbors, right? I mean, neighbors are potentially the people that you're going to be hanging out with in third spaces and getting to know to build a society, to build friendships. And the percentage of Americans who say they trust their neighbor in places that do not have third places is about 66%. The
Wow.
percentage of Americans who say they trust their neighbor in places that have third places is 81%. It's incredibly drastic what having a third place will do to build up trust between community members. And I feel like we're seeing that happen right now with things like you saying, I don't remember the last time I went to a house party. I do remember the last time I went to a house party. It was like 5 or 6 years ago, I think. And like I had gone to a bar and met a bunch of strangers, and they invited me over, and we had a great time. Um, and that was kind of just the random one. I mean, surely I've been to like birthday parties and stuff like that. I'm not really counting those. I'm kind of just counting like I was doing my stuff throughout the day, and I ended up in a place unexpectedly where I got to hang out, and I wasn't being charged money or expected to do anything. I wasn't giving somebody something they expected. We were giving each other stuff just because we wanted to. Um, and yeah, COVID certainly helped squash that down. But I think that another big part of it in my mind is the unaffordability of living at this point. People are strapped for cash. And when you go to a coffee shop and you're expected to buy, a drink every 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, and they're all $10 a piece or whatever they are. If you go to anything out there now, it costs money, and the prices are so high. Particularly young people don't have 40, 50, 60, $100 to spend the day out or whatever. And that's reducing the amount of kind of free and open casual time where you happen upon people and organically develop these relationships that cause you to invite them back to your house. Not that everybody would suddenly invite people back to their house. A lot of us have grown accustomed to sitting on the couch and flipping on the TV and catching up on Netflix and scrolling on our phones, even with our loved ones. Me and my wife, that's like our favorite thing to do is just to sit on the couch and scroll through our phones. She sends me 20 or 30 dog memes like every day when we're sitting a few feet away from each other. At first she was like holding her phone, and she would hold her phone and point it at me and let me read it, and I'd grab it and I'd read it and stuff. And she just figured out that it was much easier if she just sent it to me, even though I'm literally 5 feet away from her.
Dude, that's
Um,
insane.
yeah,
That's
it's
insane, bro.
it's
I
it's a little
mean,
crazy.
you know what? I've seen my mom and dad sit down in the den and not say a word to each other. I guess it's the same thing. Not say a word to each other for hours and just sit there and be comfortable with each other. I guess it's the same thing. But now you have technology in your hand.
I mean, it's fine. Like I'm getting older, and I really do appreciate those moments, those evenings when I get to sit down and relax and not say much, and enjoy the peace and quiet and the TV shows or the books or whatever, the dogs, whatever we're doing. But there is a sense of lacking in myself, and I know in other people, for not going out enough and doing certain things here in Oklahoma City. I can say we had some projects called the MAPS projects. I think we're on MAPS 5 or 6 now. I think it's 5. Where starting back in the late 80s, uh, particularly the 90s, is when it really built up. I think they started thinking about these things in the late 80s. And then in the 90s, they passed some like sales tax and started building out like amphitheaters and increasing the number of sidewalks, but particularly they put into play some plans for parks, not just downtown, although that was a big deal, was putting big parks downtown, but in neighborhoods. They put community centers where you could work out, particularly some for elderly people. Um, and the ones downtown are just like super, super nice. And they didn't just put parks downtown because you need to be able to get there. So they have put in trolleys and stuff. Now, at first, the trolleys, they are still currently basically just downtown in kind of a loop, but they passed, further extensions of it, and the extensions are being built out so that they reach out into the suburbs very, very far out, so that you can get people affordably downtown to these big open parks that have concerts and stuff for free. So we do that occasionally. You have to get good weather days to do that, though. And being in Oklahoma, your hot days, and your cold and windy days, your rainy days, those aren't rare. Those happen. This weather here is crazy. So
Is it warm there
just
now?
having, not yet. It's not warm yet, but having stuff outside is great. But you can't just rely on the great outdoors to meet people. There needs to be some indoor spaces too, like there were coffee shops where people are welcome, particularly kids too. Kids are a big part of what's going to be building our communities for a very long time. They're the innovators. They're the ones that'll be around the longest, starting now, at any moment in time. And without them, we're not really a whole society. I don't feel whole. I'm not caught up on the most trendy music. I'm not hearing the latest, like suggestions for movies and TV shows and fashion trends, that kind of stuff. And I guess the point is I am stuck in kind of my old man-itis kind of vibing on my couch, because I don't have these people, particularly younger people or older people older than me, to kind of shake me out of this stagnant routine that I've become complacent and happy in. And I yearn for it. I want to get out of my my living room and go and meet these people and bring a few back to my living room and kind of not relive those days, but create a new sense of those days when you and I met.
Yeah. I don't think so. Every once in a while, I go on YouTube and I see these people who live in other parts of the world who are still living as they did 400 years ago. They're still living in caves. They're still baking their bread on stone ovens. Dude, right up the street, if you walk out of my complex, up the hill, like literally, I could be right up the hill in like 8 minutes. The taqueria that I go to, they still press the tacos by hand.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, you see them making tacos just like that. Those are the fresh tacos. The cast iron stove, or the pot that they use, sits on the wheel of a tire. The wheel and then the heat comes through the wheel of the tire and heats. Dude, people in America, we've lost our sensibilities when it comes to, we used to hang out on the porch. We used to hang out on the stoops. We used to, as kids, we used to hang out and go play in the woods. All of that's gone, dude, unless you live in rural America or a third world country. When you live in San Diego, you don't, unless it's gentrified, you rarely see kids outside. Rarely.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons for that, of course. But at the end of the day, when I drive through Mexico, when I'm driving, I see children outside playing. I see moms hanging their clothes. I see people sitting. I see people sitting in Carl's Jr. eating, like tons of people. I see people in restaurants just eating and chilling. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in San Diego. But how can I put this? It's like it's like the only reason I'm going here is because maybe it's fashionable, maybe it's a fad, maybe I love the food, but I only get to do it once or twice a week. You know, I only get to go to the spot on Saturday. That's it. Once I eat, I'm out. I'm not talking to my neighbor who's sitting next to me. I'm not talking to the front. I'm not that. None of that happens, bro. You don't go to a
Yeah.
restaurant or a coffee house to talk to people anymore, man.
Right.
And San Diego is one of the most coffee house friendly places on the planet. The coffee houses, other than Rebecca's, most of the coffee houses that uh, when I left 3 years ago, they're still here and they're still
Yeah.
thriving. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a situation. I mean, the only way this works, the only way this ever comes back is if the undeniable truth is when and if this whole grid shuts down. And then we're going to have to depend on each other. Not only just talk to each other, but we're going to have to depend on each other. We don't depend on each other like we used to. We don't need each other that way anymore.
Right.
That's when conversations started. That's when everything was viable when it came to neighborhood, community, helping your neighbor fix his car. But dude, I used to see this stuff when I was a kid growing up. Not anymore.
Yeah, that rugged individualism kind of mythology that Americans look up to. I'm sure that this started in kind of our films and our movies, the glorifying that kind of thing. And it, it portrays itself, or like these days, it comes out in us in way. It's very obvious that we enjoy that rugged individualism in how it's reflected in how we take our time off. We take our time off and we escape. We go, well, not me. I don't have the money for like hitting the slopes or whatever. But I was thinking about that the other day, and like how sure you show up to kind of the cabins, and there's a little bar or whatever on the slopes, and you spend some time indoors drinking cocoa around the fire. But if you're actually there to do some skiing, that's a very kind of a lone sport. You're there in your mind. You have your goggles on, your earbuds in, your music playing, and you're hyper focused on the road ahead of you, as you should be. If you're doing stuff local, you may go get a massage. A very solo introspective thing. You may do yoga. Yoga, again, very introspective, very quiet. The most connection you usually get is you might smell the fart of somebody near you. You're connected in that way. um, the- uh I'm thinking about like how Americans kind of like express themselves when they are overwhelmed and they relax. It's usually pulling away from society. Staying home and recharging is like such a big phrase. It's an idea for Americans. And I've always
I
been
need
somebody who
balance. I need balance in my work life.
yeah, that's a big one. Like the
Yeah, more
other the
balance.
other week
Yeah.
the other week we went down to Dallas to go and to pick up the parts to build my new computer, so that I could do like more advanced things with like streaming and whatnot. And my wife really likes In and Out. I think it's fine. In and Out's, it's pretty good, but it's not the best. But she loves it, so I was like, all right, let's go to In and Out. In my mind, this is another version. It's like Christian McDonald's. Very sterile, just kind of, again, cattle dip kind of routine, where you're in, you see the counter, you're shoved to a seat, and then you're out the door. Except what happened was there was this woman who was working there, and I watched her while we were waiting for our food go from kind of table to table and just have these really personal interactions with everybody. She was probably in her 60s, 70s. I couldn't tell. This is, I mean, it dawned on me too that it was awful that I had to question this, whether she was kind of, touched genetically by something. She was, autistic, or had, I don't know, some mental deficiency or just difference. Um, or if she was just genuinely nice, because I'm not used to seeing that in people who work around in American establishments, especially like that, who are just walking
Mhm.
around, being like they've been your babysitter, your nana for like all of your life. She was just walking around extremely pleasant, extremely happy to see everybody, great conversations. I was picking up and cleaning up all of my stuff, and she was like, "Honey, that's what I'm here for." And like I just felt like I stole a job from her, but I still loved her at the same time. Like, I immediately,
Yeah.
like, I fell in love with this woman. I fell in love with like this woman at In and Out, just because she was nice, just because she said nice things to me, and didn't really expect me, didn't expect anything from me. Like, she wanted to offer me her services and her kindness, and that was so new that I just immediately I felt a connection. And that's how starved I am. At least I feel like we are, for that type of genuine connectedness in society, out in public, on the fly, randomly, uncoerced, unrehearsed, unpaid for. I mean, I paid for a burger, but I didn't pay for kindness, yet it was delivered to me
Wow. David,
freely.
you know.
So, In and Out, like a burger place, that's where I got my kindness for the month or whatever, like where I got my human connection, and it was super nice. Like, I will never forget that. I feel like we need a lot more of that. But I know that we can't just build parks or put policies in place at In and Out and every other corporate entity throughout the nation. We also have to kind of acknowledge and address this rugged individualism myth of the American psyche these days, and address this, that like we are quickly kind of devolving into angry, depressed individuals because we bought into the idea that we should be alone, or it's better to be alone, or it's easier, or all of those. When in reality we need each other. We need to sit down and we need to have conversations with each other face to face. We need to have spaces where that happens at length, again, organically, not in a forced way. I guess you could force it, kind of like speed dating. That might be fun, but I feel like it would work better if we had kind of a more organic version of that. But you can't just have the spaces. You also have to instill a new mindset, or re-burgeoning of the old mindset, that it's okay to sit down next to somebody and begin a conversation, and not fear that this is going to turn into some hateful conversation where they point a phone at you and you become the next viral idiot on TikTok.
Well, man, I mean, it's like everything you say, just look, the last 400 years um, started as a really bad meme. I mean, if you really want to look at it that way, you know, um, white guy, black guy. It's a really, really, really bad meme. Dude from Portugal goes to Africa. I think it was like mid 1440s, right? And that's when, maybe even before then, but that's when it really started, And so we're in a situation where, I mean, even if you look back at society, we've been separated as a country for so long. Like one of the most segregated days in American history is on Sunday, because you've got black churches, white churches, Korean churches, Chinese churches, you've got synagogues, you've got mosques, you've got all this stuff, and it separates us. But hey, everyone prays to their own God, right? Everyone has their own thing. Whether you're Buddha, Islamic, whether you're Buddhist, Islamic, Christian, Jewish, doesn't matter, Hebrew, blah blah blah, and that's cool, you know. And now we've been able to, somehow keep this thing called democracy together for now, you know. But the third place is just the fact that it's third place, the fact that it's not gold or silver, it's bronze, right? like what happened? Like did it ever happen? Like did it really ever happen to the point where we were able to sit down and have these conversations outside of the rugged individualism that was taking place in America once the film industry started? I mean, was that a thing? Was the fact that we could now portray certain people a certain way in printed media, in film, in social media, yeah, but now we're paying for it.
Yeah.
Paying for it. We're paying like it's not even cool how bad it is, man. Because it's bad. It's bad. I mean, you still hear people saying things like, what about, black on black crime in Chicago? I'm like, dude, Chicago's not even in the top 20 anymore. Like it's people in this country going against any and everything that could be good. And as a nation, literally as a nation, we allow it to happen.
Yeah.
This patriarchal society that we live in that is dominated by white men has given us all of this stuff, not just them, but they've put it in place so that it's so ingrained and so baked into the fabric and the dirt of this nation, and not just our country, but globally. This isn't something that's just happening in America, but we're talking about America. But I mean, whether or not we want to believe it, we're at like crisis level right now because we don't know each other anymore as Americans. We don't understand. We don't understand how 2 terms of a black president could turn into something so unbelievably ugly. And that third place, that third place where we could go and find sanctuary, it's gone. Now we're divided as a country. We're divided. Whether you're whatever you are, if you're liberal far left or conservative far right, we're divided, and there's no coming back from that. Some of these people, they're done, bro. They're done. They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to talk to you.
Right.
They don't want to.
It makes me as an artist, it makes me want to put together. I would have to raise money or get some sort of sponsorship for this. Put together a series of events where the actual art piece, I could bring in a couple local bands, maybe somebody who's put together a short film, and have actual theater or whatever put on, but the actual unannounced, unwritten about art installation is that I also put a rope down the the walkway that leads to the stage from the very back of the room, and there's ushers or whatever, and on the left you're invited to sit if you're a leftist, and on the right if you have a MAGA hat or you want to vote for Trump, you sit over there, and just segregate the crowds and force them to make a decision. Do you want to sit on the left side or do you want to sit on the right side? Have water fountains, and have cups that are blue and cups that are red, and make them make decisions.
You
and
know, you should just do that. You should just do that and have a podcast. Stream that. Stream that, brother. I'm not even kidding. That would be insane. That would be
I'll
insane. And I would fly to Oklahoma just to freaking, I would.
to participate.
That's a great idea. Are you kidding me? You know?
I envision this in like there's this little rebuilt theater called Tower Theater here in Oklahoma City, and it's picked up a lot of big headliners. So I imagine it's booked and expensive, but who knows? I next time I'm over in that area, I'll talk to those people and see if they do weird art installations like that, or if they like the idea of the concept. Well, I'm sure anybody who hears that concept is going to be skeptical at first, but we might have to explain third places.
There's no way. Dude, if I heard that, I would be like, yes. I would be like, dude, if I'm an artsy kind of person who owns or is the manager of a certain art house or amphitheater or space where I could have, let's just say 50 people, 60, 70 people, advertise it for freaking 90 days. And then like, what is it? February, March, April, May. By the end of May, in June, have it. Bro, that'd be off the hook.
You'd have to get a couple big.
That would be amazing, dude.
You'd have to get a couple big bands or something big to actually draw people in. The worst thing ever would be to have nobody show up and then not be able to run the experiment. But I agree, that would be a lot of fun. You definitely have to set up some cameras, and then on the way out, as it ends and people
Free
are walking
stuff.
out. Well, yeah, but I mean, I'd want to do some interviews and be like, so how did you feel about the seating arrangement and the cups, and see what their responses are.
Dude, that'd be amazing. And there's so much more that can go on there. So much more. I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a reason why there's a reason why I don't go to North County. There's a reason why I don't hang out up there. I'm not hanging out in North County. And there's a reason why people in North County don't come down to where all the natives are.
Right.
Browntown. Once you get south of the 8, it's all brown, bro. For the most part. Once you go above the 8, it's not. It's the way it is.
Yeah, I'd be afraid to go and hang out in the Mount Shasta area these days. I know that those counties voted overwhelmingly for Trump in California. And when I was there, I was surprised by the bars. You'd walk in and it was like any other bar in Oklahoma, deep rural Oklahoma. So I felt a little at home back then. I feel like these days it would be dangerous for me to walk into one of those bars in the Mount Shasta area.
Yeah, I don't even go east of the 15 anymore. No. I'm not trying to do that. Yeah, I remember the last time I was here. I was driving down 52, and I looked to the right, and there was a Klan meeting going on someone's patio. They had the hoods, the whole 9 yards, dude. And I was just like, this isn't just 3 years ago. I remember driving down up in Sorrento Valley, and I saw one of the guys pull out of the Marine the Marine base, the air base, with a freaking Confederate flag flying from his Jeep. Big ass Confederate flag.
Yeah.
I remember driving through La Mesa before I left. Seeing a Confederate flag flying from a flagpole. This is just 3 years ago, 4 years ago, dude. In liberal California.
Right.
People
Right.
don't understand, dude. 40% of California voted for Trump.
Yeah.
40%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a misnomer both ways. I hear people here in Oklahoma who are in deep red or deep Trump mindsets and regions mention California, and it's still the same old thing where they say, they just call it liberal California and that it's backwards and blah blah blah. But the same thing happens outside of Oklahoma too. People think and will mention on online and stuff, and I'll do a little bit of correction once in a while. They'll think that everybody here is a Trump supporter, and it's not the case. You've got these two big metropolitan areas where the very vast majority of them are left and will vote for Obama and Biden, Hillary begrudgingly, some of the time, not often enough, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So everywhere in America these days is mixed. It is the case that our kind of old school rugged individualism and our misnomers are helping us separate ourselves from each other. We are definitely doing it to ourselves.
Well, I mean, when people can't come together, when they can't sit down and break bread, whether it's a coffee house, a restaurant, wherever it is, the park, the library, no, not so much a library, but church. There are interracial churches now, or churches that have different races of people that go to the same church, of course, multicultural churches. But end of the day, man, we're still a very segregated society. I mean, we are. We still have, pockets, major pockets of white rural America. I mean, like major pockets. Like literally when you drive through America, dude, from like Ohio to frickin', you don't see any black people. I didn't see any. I've driven across America, let me see, at least what, 1, 2, 3 times in the last 10 years. When I get to Pennsylvania, the whole black situation stops. You don't see black people. You don't see them. You see them in Baltimore. You see them in Philly, New Jersey, New York, Cincinnati, Cleveland. You see them in the metros, right? The metropolitan areas. Once you leave those areas, bro, other than Maryland, maybe kind of, sort of, in South Carolina and, like some of the southern states that are majority black just because of, that's where slaves were brought. And that still hasn't completely unwound as a social and cultural construct,
Yeah.
It's still, it is what it is down there still. But end of the day, this is a white country. It's 170 million people in this country have the moniker of whiteness. And that's another thing, man. That's another thing. When you look at what Polish, what Czechoslovakian, Yugoslavian, what those people from that part of the world, Italians, Irish, anyone who wasn't blue-blooded English, wasn't an English settler who came over here from England, anyone who literally had to give up their nationality, their culture to become white, they're feeling it right now, bro. They're feeling it. Like all of a sudden you hear them saying things like, we need to get together and unite. And I'm like, bro, it's that whole like kumbaya thing with black people. That's, like, where were you like 30 years ago? Where were you 20 years ago? Where were
Yeah.
you, dude? Like now it's like now I'm like one bad transmission away from being homeless, and no, and I get it. Yeah, you know we're Americans. We need to hang out. We need to, but dude, you know you had nothing to do with us 15, 20 years ago. Now you want to learn the black experience. Well, you'll never learn it. You can
Right.
try and understand. Okay,
Right.
but the whole hangout thing. I mean, I'm a freak of nature because I grew up in the white world. I grew up in a very white world. Um, you know, I grew up in the '60s on army bases where when there weren't that many African American and people of color, there weren't that many black indigenous people of color in the military. So
Right.
most of the people that I grew up with were white. And that's just the way it is. That's how I was socialized. It wasn't literally until I was about 8 years old. Yeah, it was maybe 7, 8, maybe 8, 9. Until that's when I realized it. When I came back from Germany, actually, when I realized that, dude, these people do not like me. Like they don't, like they can't stand me, bro. I'm a kid. I'm like 8 years old. It's 1967. The year. I'm 8 years old, bro. And these people are like, I'm just like, what is wrong with you, man? And then I literally, from the time I was 8 until I was 11, I can't even tell you how many fights I got into. But once I moved past that and when we moved to Maryland, and it was more of a, much more of a black environment, because of DC and Baltimore. It was you could kind of like find your footing with just about everybody. But you know, here we are again. We're still divided, and on top of that, the third place, which is now gone. Is it gone, Pago? What do you think? Is it?
Well, I mean, I guess I hate to throw the question back to you, but here are the requirements for an actual third place. It has to be neutral ground. Neutral ground. Number two, it has to be a leveler, which means if you are lower class or you're upper class, neither of those things makes you kind of the king of this area. The area levels you. So, classes or races or whatever. Um, it has to provide a place to encourage conversation. It has to have accessibility. So, if you got one leg or no legs, or, you're tall or you're short, or, whatever, you need to be able to get there. There has to be regulars. So, that's kind of like where we were talking about the bar, the whistle stop. The regulars did help facilitate kind of that vibe there, and then we took the regulars back to my house. It has to be low profile. I think that part of that is kind of the same as is the leveler, but it can't be like this one-off thing that happens once a year, and it can't be on a penthouse level or anything like that. It has to be playful. So, it's not a place where you shout down children for being loud. It's not a place where you tell certain cultures to have decorum, because this isn't how you behave. I think a good example of that is like the movies. They'll tell people of color to shut up because they're talking. During the movie and stuff like that. It's like some cultures, like to tell somebody on the screen to look out behind you. Some people just like to sit very still and watch and use their quiet, their inside voice. Um, it needs to be playful, so you need to be able to act a fool and act normal and all of that stuff. and it should feel like number 8. It should feel like a home away from home, and those were the 8 requirements listed for the third place. And I really can't think, other than like metro parks, where any of that applies anymore. It's certainly not
I
movie
don't either.
theaters. It's certainly not coffee shops these days, not the ones that we have around here anyway. It's not fast food restaurants. It's not nice restaurants. Maybe those places, like, I know food trucks have been popular since COVID. Maybe where food trucks congregate qualifies as that kind of thing. Um, but those aren't in every city. And like, people don't hang out around food trucks for hours and hours and hours on end. So
Mm.
I don't know that they exist truly anymore. I think again, the rugged individuality, but also the the society of cars that we've built, thanks to, I think it's called Euclidean. Oh, what's that called when you uh, rezoning? So zoning. I think it's called Euclidean zoning, where there are these requirements. Now, look, I love having safety requirements, and having to have building permits, so that you get experts putting in electricity, and putting the right load bearing beams in and stuff like that. I think that's great. That's definitely necessary. But there are some that need to be adapted and adjusted, like how many parking places you have required for every business. We've gone a little bit nuts on those type of things. We have literal seas of cement. Is it concrete or cement? I forget. I swap those two in my head all the time. But you just have these parking lots surrounding every single outlet that we go to, so it's hot. It takes, it's not safe, frankly. It's not a place where you want to hang out or just stand around in a parking lot. There's a lack of, like, by foot transportation to and from those places. Not enough sidewalks. It's too far anyway to go to the suburbs, to downtown, to this shop and whatever. And there's not enough time in the day because we're not making high enough wages. Your time is limited. And so, the time thing could be got, you could get around the time thing if you didn't have these concrete jungles to wade through daily. So I kind of feel like the only way we're going to get third places back again is if we kind of readapt how we're allowing permits to build out kind of community spaces anywhere, downtown or in suburban areas, where you've got homes that are kind of built around a miniature park, all facing each other, where you've got some of those back alleyways again, that are a little bit safer for kids to play in, like we used to kind of develop. Well, you have to build with like bigger backyards or whatever. So expand the amount of property. Don't just like wring every single penny out of every plot of land. So developers kind of need to be told, hey, we're going to put some requirements on you to facilitate the rebuilding of an American society and these third places. Yeah, I don't think it exists. I think that we have to be intentional about making it exist again. That's what I think. What are your thoughts? Can you think of anything that's neutral? It's a leveler. It builds conversation. It's accessible. There are regulars there. It's low profile. It's playful, and it's a home away from home. Do you have any place like that?
Well, I think, unfortunately, the way you could start. I mean, dude, here's the thing. Okay, you're gonna think this is crazy, but I'm just gonna say it anyways. Like, hey, like you said, red cup, blue cup. You know what I mean? This is only a blue cup bar. We want to build community. All you blue cuppers, come on in. All you red cuppers, if you want to come in, buyer beware. Right? Does that work? I mean, does it work? Like, or you just say, hey, you know what? New establishment, Coffee House. We've got a nice little stage, some folk music, maybe a little rock and roll, maybe a little jazz. Everyone's welcomed. Doesn't matter if you're blue cup, red cup. Everyone can just sit here and chill,
Yeah.
But if you can't, if you don't like these kinds of people coming, if you're like hardcore MAGA, red cup, and you don't like being around people of color, right? If you want to make America great again and send it back to the 1950s or the 1960s, go somewhere else, dude. But if you want to come in here and chill, if you want to come in here and chill, man, you can do that. I mean, all it takes is just, I will sell you an entire bottle of chill pills. Just take one a day. Just take one a day. That's all you need to take, dude. You can take it with water, coffee, tea. Better yet, I'll sell them at the coffee house. You can have one when you buy your coffee. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone could just sit there and chill. Is that going to work? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, like, since I've been here in San Diego, yeah, I've been to, Lestat's. I've been to, a couple coffee houses. Chill. Still, people are still talking. They're sitting out, Never saw that in Maryland, dude. Didn't see it. Never saw it. Didn't see a coffee house. Never saw a coffee house other than Starbucks.
Yeah.
Crazy, dude. Right? You're talking about a metropolitan area of close to between Baltimore and DC, and just in that little area of close to like 12, 13 million people. And in the times that I drove around everywhere that I drove, I never saw Billy Bob's Coffee House or Jennifer's Coffee House. Just never saw it.
Yeah.
A lot of bars, a lot of places to go. But you know what? Yeah. Now, I will say that it was more neighborhood friendly than San Diego, California.
Okay.
Just because the neighborhoods are older. And, the resources are there for that kind of thing. But no, they're not accustomed to just chilling with each other out there anymore, dude, as they are, like they are on the West Coast, They chill, I'll put it like this, they chill in different ways. People go to others, like in my family, we all go to each other's houses, right? But that's our safety net, okay? Our family. And then we have other people that come over as well. But at the same time, like, you don't find those people going to, or as many times as I've gone to dinner or lunch with my mom, we never were put in situations where maybe once or twice where we had conversations with people that I can remember. In 3 years, dude, in 3 years. So yeah, I mean, are we, I know everything comes in cycles and everything comes in waves. I don't know what the next cycle is going to be. But, if we have a MAGA president, if we have a MAGA White House, it's going to be a lot of turmoil, as far as.
Yeah, I don't see a rebuilding of communities like we're talking about if MAGA gets its hands on the steering wheel. I feel like we're going to get more division. We're going to get more corporate greed. That'll be the green light. I mean, we know that because that's who's investing their money in the MAGA campaigns. Are the ultra wealthy, the PACs, the ultra wealthy that funnel their money through the PACs. So yeah, I certainly hope that doesn't happen. I don't know what the answer would be if we get our leftists in control. God, I hope that we get the House and the Senate and the presidency. That's when things change really quickly. But
drastically.
it still wouldn't solve the division. I feel like to solve that kind of a division, you need a kind of a metro level, state by state by state, but on the metro level, an investment by the cities. It would kind of have to be like what they did with the highways, where when they were trying to build the transcontinental highway systems initially, they the feds encouraged the cities and the states to build out their roads and their highways, and they matched like their investments, and I think bested their investments too, to connect them, and they helped direct engineers, uh, get them coordinated so that they could get the right systems built out that worked interlocked together. I feel like you could do something like that where you have on the federal and the state level and the city level, investments kind of like pools set aside to build out these business centers, and these to encourage developers to build out these more friendly walking spaces, not 15-minute cities. I mean, you can build those if you want, but I know Republicans are so scared of like the 15-minute city. It doesn't have to be like some scary communist commune or anything like that. You can start with like a bunch of simply just business spaces that have cabinets and running water and electricity and a big open floor plan, and you offer severely reduced rent and a few ground rules that it has to be a community space that is that meets those standards that we said: neutral ground, leveler, conversation, accessibility, regulars, low profile, playful, home away from home. And in exchange for developing that type of a business, coffee shops don't have high profit margins. So in order to make that accessible for a business owner, you you subsidize it, and you have then therefore lower rent, so you don't have to encourage high volume and high drink prices and sell expensive mugs, and do what's happened to Starbucks, that's made it an unfriendly place to go to, both for the customers and for the workers. um I feel like you got to do something like that. You got to rebuild America by actually incentivizing businesses to build the right types of businesses, and head for the right goals, and connect them all together, and get people kind of on the same page again with some big effort. Otherwise, we're just going to continue being these rugged individualistic Americans who eventually give up trying. We're just going to stop trying to understand each other. I think we're already kind of on that heading.
All right, I'll be positive, dude. I'll be positive. I can't help myself, dude. I just, man. I mean, think about it, bro. When I was a kid, let me see how this worked. So I was born in Texas. My mom and dad they'd been to France and back. Michelle was born in France, in Verdun. They came back here. I was born. As soon as I was born, literally, boom, back to Europe. My brother Michael was born in Germany. So I was a kid there. I remember Germany. I was like, what, 5, 6 years old, something like that. And then we got back here, went to kindergarten at Fort Riley, Kansas. I remember that a little bit. But then we moved to Anchorage, Alaska, Fort Richardson. And that's when it all kind of like, there are these kids, bro. Like, all these these families that were all from the South that were stationed at Fort Richardson, Alaska. And their kids were, I kicked some ass, bro. Like, I mean, I had to. I was one of 5 kids. I was the oldest son. No one was going to take care of me but me. I'm 8 years old. And I got kids like wanting to freaking hurt me, dude. You know? So there was no
Yeah.
really third space, or there wasn't any guidance counselors or, social media that could say, Rod, it's going to be okay, man. No, it's not going to be okay. It surely is not going to be okay. So Martin Luther King is assassinated in April of 1968. We'd already been there 4 years. And I was just, you name it, I'd gone through it. And my dad gets orders to Vietnam. And I'm still an Army brat. So we moved to Washington, D.C., Walter Reed. As soon as we get there, the day we get there, which was a Friday night, we wake up Saturday morning and find out that Bobby Kennedy had been assassinated. This is within 3 months of each other. Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy. CIA, well, maybe, I don't know. Someone was at work, right? Getting rid of these guys. And I went to an all-black elementary school. And that's when it hit me. Like, bro, you're black. You're black. Like, you knew what you were going through in Alaska with these other kids, but dude, this is who you are. Like, this is your deal. This is your mosaic right here, right? So dad comes. So we get stationed at. We leave DC and get stationed on the prairie, Moses Lake Air Force Base. Tall grass up to your hip for hundreds of miles. I mean, it's Nowheresville, USA, right? I worked on a horse ranch. I'm 10 years old, right? Dad comes back from Nam. Well, I'll say this. I was 1968. When we were in Moses Lake, the song "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud" by James Brown comes out. Just mind-altering stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we take that little bit of whatever it is with us, and we move back to the East Coast, to Maryland, Fort Meade, Maryland. And now I'm in a bubble. I'm in this military, like this chill 1960s, like counterculture. We were all little hippies, dude. All of us, like all of my friends, like we were all like afros, long hair, just like listening to, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Marvin Gaye and, the Martha Reed and the Vandellas and the first Led Zeppelin album, and Man lands on the moon in '69, and we're just like, what the fuck? And it's just like, all right, cool. Then Watergate, Richard Nixon, Southern Strategy, and all this other stuff takes place. But still, you have this community of people that we all cared about each other. We all knew each other. We could go over to each other's houses anytime. We could eat. Our mothers bought stuff for each other. I mean, their mothers would buy clothes for me. My mom would buy. We fed each other. That's just the way it was, bro. Mm-hmm. Like the community was thicker than a brick, And slowly but surely, dude, it just went away. When I was in the Marine Corps, I mean, I can't think of more of a community of men, and even just people, because there are women in the Marine Corps as well. I can't think of a more like a tighter community than that, other than your family, right? But even after that, like I got out in '89 and I did my reserve duty. I did another 2.5, 3 years of that, but still, by the mid '90s, dude, from like '96 on, Never really saw it. Never really saw it again. Just it's just kind of like it just wasn't there. And especially by the mid 2000s, even though we had the whistle stop and we had we still had our gatherings of like a plethora of different types of people. Um, Now, I mean, I'm sure in those rural areas in America, you might have that going on, but by and large, men, especially men are alone. Men are alone. It's hard
Yeah.
for them to go out, and women don't even want to deal with it. I mean, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody who doubts that can look to, again, I've mentioned it on a couple podcasts. You can look to what's popular on YouTube and TikTok, and from the man accounts, from the men's accounts, and what's popular are those manosphere things where they're dissing women and they're talking about how traditional Christian families have been thrown away, and that's the reason for society crumbling, and what needs to happen is women need to listen to men and not say no, and men need to be tougher, and work out, take steroids, you know uh slap around their enemies more, and all that crap. That's just like what they think is going to fix reality. And for the life of me, other than being so disillusioned by loneliness and fear, I can't figure out what would convince somebody that those recommendations are good ones or true or accurate or whatever. It's just insanity to me. And again, the only thing that makes sense is that these people have been isolated from reality for so long that they are in a feverish state of depression that is bordering on psychosis. And they have allowed charlatans to brainwash them or convince them that they can force people to like them, to love them. And that's not really how human relationships work.
Dude, we could talk about this for freaking 2 weeks. It's just once you relegate yourself to not understanding your fellow man or woman, it's over. Once you say you're different than me and I don't want to know you, I don't want to sit with you, I don't want to eat with you, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to know about your family, I don't want to know where you work, I don't want to know how you got here, I don't want to know your story, I don't want to know anything about you.
Yeah.
Just WOW, dude. Like, really? Like, what did I do to you, man? Like, what did I do to you? What did I do to you? Why is this so hard? I'm not even asking you to like me. Just talk to me, dude.
Yeah.
And you might like me. You might figure out that you and I are so much alike, it's not even, you know what I mean? And that's scary to you, man. That's scary to someone like you. We're just, we're not alike. Yeah, you and your guns. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, man. It's just, it's just all right, dude. That's Thanks
Well,
for
we
coming,
should
guys.
yeah, we should invite, if anybody's out there watching this video and they want to be on our podcast, send us a message if you are in a totally different camp and you want to open up the dialogue and have a conversation with people who are different than you, diametrically opposed to you, whatever you feel like is worth discussing. And if you don't want to discuss those things, you just want to see if we can sit down and find things in common, give us a message and we will gladly bring you on to the podcast and sit down and have a third place for you.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I mean, at the end of the day, Pago and I we're not yellers, we're not screamers. Actually, we're both artists. So we've got that other side to us, and all we want to do is talk about America. That's all we want to do. We want to. I'm not saying we're going to sit here and bring America together, but we just want to talk about America, and we want to find out how you feel about people like Pago and I, and why.
Yeah.
So on top of all of that, subscribe.
Yeah.
Okay, please subscribe. We need all the help we can get. We still need we need to get to 1,000 subscribers by April. So no, not by April. I'm sorry, by June. So thank you so much, Pago. Take it away.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was a pretty well put ending. We look forward to hearing from anybody. If you think anybody would like conversations like this, point them towards our podcast, towards the American Micro Podcast. If you want to come on and talk to us, please. The invitation is legitimate, and we look forward to hearing from any of you guys. Thanks for listening to this. We appreciate your time, and we will see you in the next one. See you inside the studio, Rodney.
All right, Pago.